In this video, we're going to show you how to install the electronic shock on your Cadillac Escalade located in your front suspension. Today we're going to be installing the electronic front replacement shock for this vehicle. Now this will require electronic sensor. You probably have one on your original one, as well as this nut. This will thread onto the top. This will clip on. Currently, the vehicle has a non-electronic shock installed with a resistor bypass to shut off the suspension light on the dash. We will be removing that and installing the original style equipment. I'm going to go ahead and start by rotating the wheel, and you're going to look for the notch in the center cap and the notch in the wheel. That way there you can install a tool to go ahead and pry out that center cap. Do that carefully, pull it off and set it aside. Now, using a 22mm socket, you want to go ahead, loosen and remove all of your lug nuts. Go ahead and grab that wheel, remove it, and set it aside. Now, if you're removing the electrical harness from the top of your original sensor, you're just going to go down to the top of the strut right here, or the shock unit, and it'll be clipped on right there. This is the connector. So you're just going to spread open those white tabs and pull the connector off of your sensor. Now, on one of the bolts here is a retainer. We're just going to pull that off, tuck that off to the side. That's going to expose the third nut on the tower. We're going to use a 15mm socket, deep socket, with an extension. And we want to try and remove these nuts. We're going to spray down the nuts here with some rust penetrant. We'll let that soak for a little bit. Then we'll come back in a short bit and remove those nuts. At the bottom, you're going to locate two 16mm bolts going through the control arm. Go ahead, loosen and remove these. We did spray these down with some rust penetrant to go ahead and get these to break free. When you use a pry bar, go between the base here and the control arm. You're just going to pry that. It is going to pop out. It is under a little bit of pressure, but nothing that would be crazy. But this will drop down a little bit. Let's go ahead and grab this unit, and we're just going to work this up and out. Now, right now we have our unit in our compressor tool. If you don't have one of these, you want to bring it down to a shop and have them take care of it for you. Never loosen the center nut unless you have this properly compressed. Now, before we remove our nut from the top and we drop out our strut unit itself or shock unit, I'm going to go ahead and mark this. So I'm going to mark the upper tray with the crayon, right down the rubber and onto the spring. My plan is when I install the new unit, everything is lined up properly. Now, on the bottom side here, you want to pay attention that the bar that comes out here with the holes in it is twisted backward just a little bit. And that's the way it's designed to fit into the lower control arm. So when you install the other shock unit itself, make sure that the mounting base here is tilted slightly backward. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to have to mark this here. Make sure when you install it that the The base here is going left to right. 15mm socket on the top. Here we have it. Go ahead and remove that. If you still have the bumper on the shaft, go ahead and slide that, set that off. I want to go ahead and remove this insulator pad right here. Slide that over onto the new one. Take the insulator or the bumper here, slide that down, and then you're going to take this little collar right here, slip that over just like that. I'm going to take our shock unit. Once again, make sure that this mounting point down here is tilted backward. If you spin it the other way, it'll be tilted forward. So that's the way we removed our original one here. Go ahead and install the unit up into place. Install the nut. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. Let's go ahead and gently snug that down. Now at this point here, we have the nut threaded on just about all the way. This is kind of tight right here, which is good. It's not going to jump around. Our marks on our upper plate, bushing, and spring are all lined up, and our strut base or shock base is facing the correct way. We're now going to go ahead and release this. Our next step is to torque the center nut to 59 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and remove our unit here, get it installed in the vehicle. Lower this down inside. And then what we got to do is feed it back up. Now with the strut up in place, go ahead and get the 3 nuts on the top here started. You want to go ahead and press the lower portion of the shock up onto the control arm itself. And we are just shy of getting clearance on that. So we're going to use our pole jack here. You can use a jack with a block of wood. You don't have to lift it much. I'm going to push that up, compress it a little bit. There it is. You're probably going to have to move this around just a little bit. Once you get those two started, go ahead and snug those down. Torque down the 2 lower shock bolts to 37 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and tighten these down. Now we're going to torque those 3 nuts to 37 foot-pounds. Now we're going to install our center nut. this threads on. Now when installing this here, you want to make sure that the ribbed portion or that collar is on the top side. And we need to torque this down to 15 foot-pounds. Once you have that installed, make sure the top of the tower is clean here. I'm going to install our sensor right here. Line that up, push it down. And you push it down, that you're going to feel it and hear the metal clip on the bottom lock into place. And then grab that connector here. Good, line that up. And we need to push that on. Here we go. Now we have the connector on. Now at this point here, I'm going to go ahead and get this harness popped onto the stud. Now our shock install is completed. Next thing you want to do is go ahead and bring the vehicle down and get an alignment performed. This way here is going to prevent premature tire wear or abnormal suspension component wear. Now, if you're replacing the bypass unit on the vehicle with factory electronic suspension, you want to go ahead and remove that sensor here, just a resistor. You remove that and discard of it. Go ahead and install your wheel. Go ahead and get all of our lug nuts started, and we'll come on back and zip them down. Go ahead and torque your lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds. You're going to do this in a crisscross pattern. Go ahead and take your center cap, locate one of the notches, line it up with one of the notches on the wheel. Pop it on, and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.